in multiplayer. Currently, as it stands, we are evolving. The texture of expansion is evolving, and including Diplo, conflicts are ensuing. We're trying to figure things out, and that's kind of where we are starting here into the 17th turn. We get a couple of messages with which to cover. One from Lanka, Noble, who we had sent a kind of message a couple turns before, where we were like, hey, we think Airmore might attack us. Might be a good opportunity for you to expand into Airmore if they do indeed attack us. Our response is, noble men beneath, I have no desire to see conflict paint your land. I would sooner see Airmorian men mulched in their own fields. Should conflict erupt, I will send my armies to the northwest. So he agrees to help. Peace may follow you, better monkeys. Okay. Secondary one here from Atlantis, who we gave a similar message. Because the geography, we'll take a look at it in a second. The geography is such that these people would have an opportunity to expand it. We get a rather lengthy one from Atlantis. Hello, Unga Boonga 2, Electric Boongaloo. Thank you for the heads up. I indeed love salting the earth of the air-breathing surface dwellers and look for opportunities to salt. For the tip, we encourage them to perhaps salt the earth of Airmore, which is stylized in a way similar to the Romans, in the way that the Romans unjustly saltified Carthage all those years ago. But for the tip, I'll let you in on something the Basalt Queen saw in the crystal. Xibalba has made it quite clear that they intend to strike you and reclaim their underground. I have no intent on going underground, as I have other swimming pools to claim. Hopefully we can have a peaceful relations with my little island province above you. Regards, Saltman. I'm pretty okay with this. That island would be very useful for us, but not seeking to add to the additional conflicts, especially when we have reasonable expansion in various other areas. So to kind of take a look at what we mean with the Airmore situation, we are here. Lanka, who has agreed to potentially help us, is right here. That is the capital. And we have Atlantis here. So the textures are changing. We, of course, do have an issue with Xibalba. Xibalba benefits from being underground quite a bit. We expect them to want to go underground, and now it's kind of confirmed that they intend to go underground. However, they've fought Therados a little bit over the Abyss, and Therados has held it for some time now. Or 3 turns that they've held it. They took it, they held it last turn, they have it this turn. And so, not entirely sure what to expect, or if the idea is perhaps that we reorganize our army or orient it elsewhere, because we started shifting our army up. And so, maybe we are leaving ourselves vulnerable in some regard. We'll have an idea of being able to respond to the Abyss, if that is taken. But at the same time, we want to be able to respond around Airmore, if that is also threatened. And finally, in Ulm, we do want to be able to expand opportunistically out here. So we have several things going on, but I wanted to highlight a couple things as we kind of get into it. The first is, this scout here shows that things may be quite dire for Kailasa, as we think that Yomi is here, and if this, Tiash has been taken, and we think Mustafheim is over here, because we now see 2 Mustafheim provinces, now it becomes remarkably clear that Kailasa's over here, or they're dead. And there's not much over here. Or there's Danvale is... Actually, I don't know how Yomi has both these and Kailasa somehow being down here. So it looks like Kailasa has been devoured quite early on here, by the looks of things. Very difficult expansion. And we kind of wanted to talk through the Bless a little bit. I experimented quite a bit as Kailasa. I almost played Kailasa here. The Flaming Weapons, Incarnate Only, and Invulnerability, Incarnate Only. This must have been a pretty expensive Bless. It leans into the Archers. It looks like that's what he was trying to do. Last episode, we did see a battle of his, and we saw his army get wiped. And I don't know where his capital is, but it's looking not so good for him. We also spent some time looking at Lanka's Bless, because this Bless is actually kind of similar to ours, and we thought about it for some time. We got wrong what Righteous Wrath was, just looking at it. I thought it was the Blood Vengeance one. It's not Blood Vengeance, it's Righteous Wrath. And so what this does is they have Fire Resistance 5. And we thought about this bless a long time because it's very similar to what we were practicing with Kailasa, because larger and a whole bunch of stats, basically. But Fire Resistance 5 is probably because they have Undead, and this gives them good coverage. This makes a lot of sense to me after I thought about it a little bit. The Undead die a lot to fire, their Sacreds won't die as much to fire, so it makes you overall, you have better coverage and you don't automatically lose to fire as much. Incidentally, that's been, since they've been firing Kailasa that has fire arrows, that's probably been a little bit useful for them. Defense skill 5, I'm not on board with this as much, because I think that Righteous Wrath and defense skill are kind of antagonistic in terms of the relationship. We'll get on with it a bit, but we're spending 10 points on our Bless, so now we have 12-point Bless. Another 4 points for Blood Surge, so 16-point Bless. Do like Blood Surge a lot. If they kill something, they get plus attack and defense and extra reinvigoration. So that seems fine enough. 16, I think we said, was the total Bless cost at this point. Righteous Wrath, another 4, so that's 20 on the total Bless cost, and larger is 7, so that's 27 on the Bless cost. So they are all in on a Hellish Bless with a Dormant Protector. That's what it looks like they have. And they're trying to scale. Larger do like a lot because their Sacred Troops are size 4, so this doesn't reduce their attack density. If you have size 3 Sacreds, you're going from 3 to 4 means you can only get 2 units in a square now. They can still get 2. But I don't really like Righteous Wrath because this means that it affects, if you have a guy of yours die within 2 squares of you, a Sacred, you will get additional attack and defense. And it's a big number, but it's not always on. And it's worse if you're larger, because if you have 3 guys a square, when this pops, including guys in your own square, you can affect 8 other guys. When you only have 2 guys a square, you can only affect 5 other guys. And at the same time, the defense skill is antagonistic with Righteous Wrath. If they're making use of the defense, then this is prolonging your ability to get Righteous Wrath. So I was thinking through that. But other than that, like, kind of like the principle of the Bless is like, we're going to get larger and we're going to get a bunch of stats. In Righteous Wrath and Blood Surge, this is attack and strength. For the most part, it's +6 with both combined. And so if you look at it from the perspective of, we're just going to have a lot of raw stats, this seems to be accomplishing this and adding in fire resistance. So did spend some time thinking about that in the intermediary. But now we have kind of the task of somehow maintaining a lot of flexibility and looking to maybe fight Xibalba. The fact that we didn't hear back from Theranos to me is still a bit of concern, because I don't know if the idea is to make the Abyss look like it's covered and then uncover it, let Xibalba in, and Xibalba gets underground. I'm not saying I think this is what's going to happen, I'm just saying it is a potential. But we also might be swinging at ghosts with that kind of way of thinking when we can be trying to expand. So if we like stall out an army here because we're afraid of it, rather than heading to the underworld, you know, it's a little bit of a problem. And we have been setting up now for several turns for being able to do that, to be able to go into the underworld, because now we have 6 priests here. That's a lot of priests. And so I think the game plan is going to be moving all the guys over with all of the troops that are available. Not necessarily going to use all these in the battle. I don't think we necessarily need this many Mouflin, but maybe that's okay. Yeah, maybe that's okay. One of the issues is you don't want too much HP to be in Mouflins. So maybe actually we just hold some of these guys back. In particular, you don't want too much health being in Mouflins, because this can cause your army to rout more easily. But we're going to have this. We're going to have these guys behind. Normally, the Myru champion would be our hammer. But now our hammer will be the fact that we have 6 priests. And so we're going to be casting our blessing, which kills undead, which these guys are, very, very quickly. So I think we're going to move on over here. We are going to, with our Beckrite Shepherd that has just spawned, summon allies. We have a scout. We'll send a scout down. And I think what we're going to do is we're going to recruit a scout here. I want to have better eyes on what's going on to try and be able to form an understanding of what exactly is going on here, not just in the Abyss, but also in the forests of Idun, which is where Xibalba had, how they expanded. They expanded through here, they built a fort here. This is a forward fort. They are looking to come underground. I think the way we're going to look to do it is come out through here on an opportune turn, not into 90 units, but when it rolls 50 or 60, and look to expand here, and then push Xibalba from this side, where they don't have a fort, but they have a lot of income. These above-ground income, especially the farmland, is going to be quite nice. And so I think to that end, we're going to be trying to still play to this side, because it's both money for us and might be the better avenue of attack into Xibalba. So, this is some thoughts. We also, this turn, finish our very first Gentle, and at the same time, we finish Construction 3. So we can now gain access to a bunch of other items. We haven't been doing too much forging. We are going to go for the Dwarven Hammers, and this is a big kind of point here. It gives Forge bonus 2. We already have Forge bonus 2 on the Gentle, so that means we're going to have Forge bonus 4. With Forge bonus 4, things that cost 5 gems normally will cost 1 gem. So every time we do a forge, we effectively, if we wanted that item anyways, which isn't going to necessarily be the case because we're going to build more items than we otherwise would, it effectively earns us 4 gems. So this is a way in which we can be earning economy. And so we want to be kind of ramping it up in that regard. I think that we'll forego, we talked about doing a helmet for this guy. I think we'll forego the helmet with the understanding that we probably have to pause a turn if we get a low roll on these Sinos anyways. Because we won't be able to expand into them. So here, we will have hand off a squad. It's not so important. Let's get it right anyways, in terms of what we want them, where the undisciplined guys separate. And then we will have a whole lot of cave cows. But we'll move these guys over. And we also want to think about this composition to some extent for it eventually fighting Xibalba in terms of what we're bringing. I don't think the Cave Cows are actually exceptional at fighting Xibalba, because they're a range unit that's just going to get jumped on. So maybe we don't worry as much if those guys attrition out. And then we had planned on and moved one of our guys to be able to do this. And we're going to follow behind. So if we don't go up next turn, we'll go up the turn afterwards. We also finished our first lab and temple in a fort. So now we're going to just put these guys on repeat recruitment, and they will continue to recruit, and this will be good for us. We'll clean up some things in some various other spots, but we are moving in some various ways here. We just want to keep an eye on the Nether, in particular, and hopefully not invite Xibalba underground. This is, for me, the concern, trying to keep the lid on things, is Airmore, probably reasonably doesn't want this close to his capital someone else owning a location. This seems reasonable to me. If Airmore decides not to seek conflict and is just expanding over here, which I think is what they're doing right now, they're going to bump up against Lanka, and we'll see how that shakes out. And then there's something over here, which we think is Roos. We think Roos is somewhere in here. And so trying to maintain the most flexibility and safety as we can as we just try and acquire more resources, more ways in which we're gaining stuff. So this is owning locations, this is having guys forging items, this is doing research, this type of thing. I think to that end, we actually want a little bit more research. So we won't actually have a Gentle coming in next behind. We'll have a Sorgina. We don't need this guy currently. And so we'll have 500-ish gold to play with as well. So we have a little bit of a choice here. We can link our troops back in Olifa and pick up a few of these extra guys. I think that's what we're going to do, but we also could just preach here and meet up in Knight's March. We get more overall guys if we meet up in Olifa, though, with these guys, and what we will have behind them is a bunch of Mouflins. And the things that we're moving over, these Mouflins and these loud cars outside, the Bone Tribe Beast Hunter, these guys are going to be quite nice into this, as especially the Mouflins, as something that is just going to die to the lances. So we just want these guys to eat a bunch of lance charges for us. So we're going to do this, but also, we do want to finish this guy. I was thinking that we didn't finish this guy and get started on the Basilwan right away, but I don't really want to waste a turn that we've already invested into the Tartalo. Maybe it's worth it to just get started on the Basilwan right away, but I'm thinking that in the long term, we're going to have fewer and fewer circumstances with which we can recruit Tartalo, and they're going to serve us pretty well. because they have very solid stat lines for their... we can give these guys equipment. We can give them 2 pieces of equipment, and suddenly they are, on a per unit, on a per maintenance basis, I think they're worth a lot more than the 70 gold cost worth of upkeep here, 56 gold, as a unit that has like 25 protection instead. And also, they have size 7. We can stack them with our shamans, and have our shamans buff these guys up. And with a couple of buffs, these guys are pretty strong. They're very killy. And with 2 gems worth of investment, because we're getting this cheaper stuff on the Gentiles, I think that they're fairly good, but we do not have a way to massively recruit a ton of these guys later. There's no way to mass these guys quickly. We have to accumulate a stable of them. And so I do think that that is going to be how we approach that, which leaves us with kind of a lot of gold, because that would have been one of our big expenditures we could have made. The Hidden Realm represents kind of an interesting place, and so does Deep Waygor as well, because they have a lot of income, and these would be fine places for us to fort. And in particular, the Hidden Realm cuts off some amount of land. The Nether is exposed, but the Hidden Realm... Why don't we actually do this? So she's stealthy as well. We have her on retreat. We're a little bit concerned with what there is underground. We know that Xibalba scouted us 2 turns ago, and so gonna try and think of adjustments we can make in light of new knowledge, but I think the strategy is going to be still go to Underworld and then ping back and decide what we want to do from Deep Waygor with this troop for now. A big thing that we are kind of focused on is probably going after Hot Hollows at some point in time, considering how many priests we have. So continuing to recruit priests out of here every single turn, with the idea that it seems like we might fight Xibalba, which is going to have a lot of undead guys anyways, and this is going to allow us to clear out this throne at some point in time. And from Pyrene or from Hot Hollows, we're actually pretty well poised to respond to anything in terms of flexibility, rather than getting our supply line really stretched out in terms of troops we can recruit. This is our stretched out supply line, for which we're a little bit concerned. But if Airmore is playing nice, then they're playing nice. So for our spend, we have Ulm recruiting some troops, and we also have Pelea recruiting another Beckrite Shepherd. Other than that, we're just going to sit on our money and also think forward to wanting to build another fort. In particular, we have a very significant vulnerability in Deep Waygor. One, if the province gets taken, they get to destroy our temple for free, but also we lose all of the income for every province that's not connected to a fort. Or I think it's all, maybe it's a portion of the income, but we lose income if it's not connected to a fort. If we lose Deep Waygor, everything north of here is not connected to a fort anymore. A lot of other provinces do not share this same kind of critical, you're cut off from everything type of characteristic, and so we do want to find a way to keep Deep Waygor safe if we can. We thought about even recruiting a bunch of extra troops in Deep Waygor. Xibalba could raid us with stealthy guys, but I don't think he has the technology where this really makes a lot of sense. But we thought about adding in 10 Beckrite Hunters. But we can respond and add Beckrite Hunters whenever we want along this supply route, and I don't think that we want to pay for maintenance if we can avoid it. I don't think we want to overbuild, so I think we're actually going to float 350 gold at this point, because we're starting to get these longer supply lines, and paying a bunch of maintenance on stuff that is not going to be that useful in an immediate sense is going to cost us, effectively, infrastructure we want to build like forts. And a fort in Deep Waygor will pay for itself in 25 turns. And this is also another appealing reason to want to put it in Deep Waygor itself, the income. One of the downsides is this really siphons off resources that can go to Pyrene, but we care about that a lot less now that we're starting to get Gentils, because they give us 25 resources anyways. So once our first Gentil is in, look, we have 62 resources. We could recruit a bunch of these guys if we wanted. I don't think we will, but we could if we wanted, and would have been nice to have that last turn. But I think that instead we're going to sit on our gold and maintain some flexibility here. Also, we can respond very, very strongly if we see units in the Abyss, right, that are Xibalban. We can recruit here, we can recruit here, we can recruit here, we can recruit in all three, and try and set something up. It might be better to take a stand in the Hidden Realm, but really don't want to let him into the Nether. And there's an argument for making a fort in the Nether as a consequence of this. Don't want to let him into the Nether, because like once he gets in, he can fly around, but to be fair, he's stealthy, so he can fly around. So us summoning or acquiring otherwise units to really patrol the Nether is probably long-term going to be a solution we really care about, even if this stays occupied by Theranos. To some extent, that's also true on Great Cenote, but we also have this here, so we can summon stuff out of here and make some use things. But the thing we're thinking ahead about is building another fort and maintaining the flexibility to completely abandon that plan if something goes sideways or in some other way not according to plan. One of the weaknesses I think we recognize more than any is our ability to get troops very, very quickly out of here is extremely low in this region. We basically cannot acquire troops just rapidly here, and so as a consequence of this, to some extent we're going to cheat out towards them a little bit, and maybe we even consider a fort in Pelea if we, for whatever reason, don't feel like we can build a fort here, but we might decide to risk building a fort here and risk getting it cancelled. Really wish we could have gotten that non-aggression pact from Airmore, where starting the fort would be extremely safe in that case, and we would be able to build it up. Now it's a bit more of a thing where if Airmore comes back and decides they're done with this expo, then that's going to be a situation. So actually, I think that this guy will just keep where he is at. Or actually, let's come back to Erd, and we're kind of keeping an eye on these three. And we want to see if there's a massive Airmore army here, and if there is, either next turn or the turn after, something like this, then we can think about building a fort. Because I do think this fort makes the most sense, strategically speaking, because it would lock Airmore out to some degree, unless we manage to spread our dominion, because this is heat scales. The only way onto the island is through the bridge here. It's worth noting that to the extent that we want another temple, and we probably would build another temple if we have something forted, if we build a temple here, and if we ever start spreading our dominion towards Airmore, that's kind of bad for them. That's very bad for them, because they actually have really good scales. We don't benefit from their scales if it's their dominion that are positive, only the negative ones we suffer from. But if we spread our own dominion, our dominion has sloth, and doesn't have a bunch of the other positive stuff, and they wouldn't even benefit from this growth, so if we spread our dominion onto them, that will be negative for them and not require us attacking. And we have a whole bunch of priests, so this is a strategy we can maybe execute. I don't know if it's good or bad if we spread our dominion to these guys, to Theranos, because they generally just have negative scales, but they benefit from death scales because that produces more troops for them. And so I think they would generally kind of prefer it. It looks like he's also tanked his scales to somewhat. We don't have a good idea of what Muspelheim's scales are at this juncture. We've also decided to pull back a little bit on the guy who's forward scouting Xibalba. I think we're going to move him back to High Peaks and look to kind of... There's like an avenue here towards which Xibalba's getting access to the Abyss, possibly. And I think if we understand what's there, we can really adjust much more strongly and not need to feel so hedgy about some of this stuff. Like we were thinking about building a fort in the Hidden Realm along with a lab, but if we can avoid it, we would like to avoid it. We want to grab this Sino province in particular to recruit the Sino shamans who can roll death or astral. We currently do want to find someone who's giving death though, so we did think about moving a mage here to construct a lab so that we could start recruiting a couple Kamazots to be able to scout stuff out. But I think we're getting our spends relatively well. I don't think we necessarily need the gold sink. And us rolling this a ton for blood, or to break into blood, is a little bit less valuable because we already have one guy who has a little bit of blood. So we can get a little bit of blood slaves. We want some blood slaves for some items, but we really don't need a lot. Incidentally, these guys are better at searching for blood slaves, so we probably eventually build some infrastructure here, but I don't think we need it in an immediate future sort of sense. And so, yeah. So here's what we're thinking about kind of moving forward. Alright, so we return message to Commodore Lamp, or Mr. Lamp, or Salt Lamp. Mr. Lamp's my father. Where Atlantis informed us about Xibalba, that they were going to attack us, which we kind of already knew, and expressed that they don't want to get in conflict over us, over an island, which we don't want to fight them. It's right next to their capital, so they have a supply line of 1, and we can't attack underwater anyways. There's no... it's not sensible for us to try and fight in this type of way, and so we'll just let them have the island, especially because if we're going to upset a player for the perspective of securing a forest, we've already done that with Airmore. We don't need to make additional enemies. We've secured what we need in order to kind of move into the future, and we also see that really open territory that is next to Tianxi, or the cave entrance that's next to them, the pink guy. So, our response is, I have no desire to make an enemy of trading, to the end of trading an island back and forth for no productive purpose. One that is next to your capital, no less. Coordination between us is also sensible, and this is kind of the argument that we gave to Therados, although we're not revealing that we have a nap with Therados here, and we've talked with Therados, but we're not concealing it either. As we both have access, most other nations do not get, both access most other nations and do not get in each other's way doing so, which is true. Underground is nice. This is a flexible advantage. At present, Airmore has backed off, though I do not trust the absence of a message and a rejection of non-aggression pact, which he rejected. A bat going underground, a little bit of humor here. What an absurd notion. Clearly, obviously absurd. Though I began to have such suspicions when I caught one of their spies a few turns ago. Like Icarus, they too might fly too close to the sun. Xibalba might be weaker now than they let on. The titanic presence of Absolute Cinema, who is the Therados Titan, which was an awake pretender, which we saw kind of put them down, knowingly struck them down at a cave entrance just west of you a few turns ago, and they have yet to reclaim it. Warm regards. So we'll rattle this message off. I think that we will also consider sending another message, although I think it's less important for us to respond again to Lanka. We've kind of gotten the type of response we want. If they want to send a nap, they can. We'll see how things go. We'll keep it a little bit flexible. We haven't agreed to anything, but this warm response makes me not want to attack them, even if we keep that as a open possibility. And so we have a non-aggression pact with them. Someone advised me that breaking non-aggression pacts is seen as really, really BM. And so I have yet to... I don't know what the metagame for that is. I know in game it just means you can't attack for 3 turns. But we'll see here. In the Sandstone Caverns, we don't really have an intent on going up. Especially because we don't want to conduct a long campaign basically anywhere. And virtually everywhere is a long campaign. And so we'd rather just slowly pressure kind of the entrances of caves if we can, and acquire footholds, rather than try and make some sort of deep dive towards an elimination war, because I don't think it's sustainable, because our flexibility, our advantage, is also a weakness in that we can be pushed by any direction. And Lanka specifically... they have dark vision and this type of stuff, so if we push too far into someone else, like Xibalba, if we were to come up from here and try and push out like this, this does mean that we are very many turns away from being able to return. And so this is something to consider as well as we expand. I do think we're going to try and push Xibalba from this side, though, depending on how things shake out with Airmore. Decided to also rattle one off towards Lanka, because we don't want to accidentally bump their army in the event that they decide that they want to take the underground province. I hope that they are not intending on this, but if they are intending on this, they will not be able to inform us before we arrive in their army. Or unless any message from them is not going to arrive to us in time, and so we can't really be blamed if our armies bump. But we say better monkeys, although their army will probably get the best of ours, because ours is a bunch of priests masquerading as an army, not really an actual army. Harambe be praised. As an update, Airmore appears to have withdrawn, but concerns remain. Just a heads up, on the following turn, you receiving this, I should have an army arriving in the underworld to clear out the shades. They will depart the following turn. Warm regards. So we will rattle that off as well. So we have 2 messages sending out, and this, of course, is the underworld. Either way, now that we have said this, we will, no matter what happens, unless they attack, actually basically no matter what happens, we will move the army out of the underworld on the following turn, even if they set up something to attack us, because do want to maintain a consistency of keeping our word, and we'll deal with that if they somehow view that as us opening up a front for them to attack into us. One concern is that they have dark vision. So I do think that them attacking us, we are opening up a lane here by taking the underworld, but also it's 55 income, and eventually we would look to build something here and do some stuff. And so, okay, we want to clear it out and then return to Hot Hollows, as we've mentioned before. But more importantly, we want to, with a lot of this Diplo, invite people to entertain the notion of attacking people who aren't us. And especially people who we are concerned about. And so to the extent that people are thinking of attacking Airmore, and people are thinking of attacking Xibalba, who has designs on the underground either way, this is good for us. And if they think it's their idea to attack them, given the information I've given them, and not my idea, that would be preferable. But in either case, even if that's not the case, I do think that this makes us look more friendly. The interactions, I could be mistaken, I could be BMing people, but I do think that this is going to be helpful for us. One thing that I dislike is if war breaks out between Atlantis and Theranos, we might have to kind of pick a side. And I think that that's likely because they're the two underwater nations. And we would prefer a situation where the two underground nations, where Xibalba gets eliminated before this, because we don't want to turn it into an above-ground, underground 2v2. We would rather for dog piles, and so we're trying to arrange the situation. Alright, so we have turn 18 here. A little bit more of a quiet turn, other than we do get Ulm the Earthmind, or the Ulm Envoy the Earthmind has appeared at our gates. Many years ago, a Beckride shepherd came across a strange creature laying in the mushroom field. Though badly wounded and unconscious, the thing was alive, and so the farmer nursed it back to health. Once awakened, the Ulm mentally thanked the farmer and the wife, and were shocked to find it intelligent. As word of the strange creature spread, the shepherd and the Ulm were brought before the king. After a display of mental powers, the king declared the Ulm an honored envoy of the Underrealm, and since it has lived in comfort at the royal court. I wonder if this requires specifically that you're playing Pyrene. Earthmind enjoys his newfound status and has declined to return to the deeper earth, using his powers to aid the Beckrides to whom he owes his life. So I guess it is Beckrides. I don't think we're playing with a mod, and I don't remember this featured as one of the heroes. During his stay, he's picked up some minor skills in the magic of the shaman. So, going to the commander, he's got some magic pads. And, okay, a lot of this is stuff we have access to, so it's not new access, but we're going to get Fortune Teller. We're probably going to keep him at home, so this is going to be nice. And we're going to have Water Magic 3, which is not something we get that easily, which is enough to make the Water Jacket booster. And then between that and, kind of another thing, we will be pretty solid in water, and we can maybe even use them to summon water elementals underwater and take some provinces and do something like this. I think we do have this province here, so we could recruit pale ones to take with them, but okay. That was kind of the eventful thing. We did find Mercury Pond, which is going to be 2 water gems a turn, which is also nice. We can morph her back and have her continue on her way. The Sorginas just continuing to be searching the underground, trying to increase the gem income. We also had a couple unexpected events, some death gems, and Skull Mentor, which is going to be pretty nice if that's the item I think it is, but I don't think it is the item that I think it is, if that makes sense. I was thinking for a moment that it's the booster. Instead, it's going to be a research booster, but that's also pretty good. And so that is going to give us an additional 14 research, so like a full mage worth of research from an event. So we're going to equip that up, and so that will be at the very least kind of nice for us. So we will be getting a decent amount of just kind of free research this turn between the Sorgina, the Ulm Envoy, and the fact that we have that item, research speed. I think it was 90-ish last turn. It's 137 here this turn, and so we will be finishing Alteration 3. Now, we kind of have some ideas, and the ideas are this. There's one other player in the game, Theranos, who traditionally will get to really high nature paths. So we can go for Mother Oak, maybe. I don't know. I would like to try and find some sort of insurance that Theranos is not trying to cast this without implying that we might be trying to cast this. So I don't know the best way to approach this, but this is something we have on the table in terms of something we might do, because we can benefit quite a bit. Iron Skin on all of our troops is something that we're interested in, just generally. Although Alteration 5 is maybe a little bit weaker than what we would want, but Storm Casting Storm into Xibalba is something that we'd also be interested in. Guys can't fly unless they have Storm Power or Storm Immunity. I forget what exactly it's called. So that's maybe something that is on the table for us. I think we still want to get Evocation up to level 2, but this is really for the Sorginas. And maybe we can go without it. Conjuration 3 is also going to be a big one for Summon Earth Power, but it's not going to be useful in the immediate future. And so that leaves me kind of thinking maybe we go Alteration 4 even. I think we talked about this a little bit, but Temper Flesh would be immediately useful for what we have going on right now, which is currently, it looks like we're using the Myru Champions, and not anyone else quite yet. There's a couple things in Enchantment that are also maybe worth kind of coming around for. In particular, Personal Regeneration is something that we're interested in on some of our guys. But I think for now, we'll look to just get Evocation 2 to give us a little bit of flexibility, because it's not a whole bunch of research, but we do want to get it queued up because we only have 65 here. We'll queue up Evocation 2 because we're going to, next turn, get enough to finish Alteration 3 and get it on an Evocation. So the research is coming up quite a lot. We have a lot of units that we're moving around, shuffling around. Don't want to kind of belabor it too much, so I don't think we're going to emphasize exactly what's going on. But we did make a little bit of a deviation from last episode, or last turn, where we actually ended up recruiting 6 additional Myru warriors. I was thinking that we actually probably don't have enough to go after the Sinos. Last turn they had 90 units, this turn they had 80 units. We are probably going to wait for a roll where they have 50 units, or until we get additional reinforcements. We do have more reinforcements coming in, but they're really tough. Their units are better than our Beckride Heavy Infantry by a big margin. I think we would rather have Bebrick's Guards, man for man, but we definitely can't attack into like twice as many guys. And so we're going to be kind of sitting tight over here, and then we're going to be attacking the Underworld. We should be fine, I think, with all the priests that we have, but this might go super sideways, but we'll reorganize the army and show what we have cooking there. Alright, so pretty straightforward. We put the Mouflins in the very back. We put them in a separate unit from the Beckrides, even though they're all undisciplined, because the Mouflins, their squad is probably going to rout relatively quickly. They're just going to get in and hopefully be a nice little screen. And then we have 45 featuring a ton of Bebrick's Guards. These guys are really good at holding the line. And we're hoping that they can just hold out for just tons and tons of Stellar Decrees. This is going to do a bunch of AoE damage. We got Divine Blessing, Sermon of Courage coming in hot, and then everyone's just going to be on spells, and we hope that the fact that we have 6 casters all casting anti-undead stuff against the undead squad will be pretty effective. And so we'll go in on that. Haven't really played exactly with a squad like this into Shades. Shades are generally really scary. This is not an amount of units I would feel super comfortable with just taking them, but it's mainly the fact that we're backed by so many priests. I think we could take this without too many casualties, and we don't really mind if we lose a bunch of Mouflin. However, we do have to be just generally careful about taking too many Mouflin, because Mouflin have a lot of hit points. And they're a really good damage soak, and they kind of fulfill roles a little bit, but if you're taking an enormous amount of Mouflin, if you over half the hit points of your entire army gets destroyed, I believe this is the criteria, your entire army can start rolling for routing. And you do not want your entire army to rout. So here, for example, we are going to be leaving some Mouflin behind. And the reason being is we don't want our army to rout. We have the Discipline guys in back. The hope here is that we'll move this a little bit closer here, and we'll move this guy a little bit further back here. But the hope is that with this squad, that the Mouflins charge forward and eat most of the lances, and if not, these guys eat most of the lances. They got a couple javelins, and that this leaves the Bebricks there to kind of take out the rest of the troops, and that's what we kind of have going on here. For the Tartalo here, I think we're going to set him to summon allies, and then we'll slowly bring them back. We want him to kind of be aware that we are using this specifically to recruit Tartalo, so we will leave the one singular Tartalo in his face a little bit, so that we can show that we're making use of this. Also had, in the interim, kind of had a little bit of a thought, is we might intentionally give back Titan's Breath peaks and just let him have this. I don't know how valuable such a demonstration of goodwill is, but if we can lock down this and we think that he's not going to be aggressive against us, we're going to kind of rake back some of the scouting. If we think he's not going to be aggressive against us, then at the cost of this, at a cost of 36 income province, this is well worth it, because if we have to fight him and we're fighting an overall defensive battle against him, that's going to cost us more than 36 gold a turn, right? In principle, we would want to be able to bring like as much power to bear on one enemy at a time, unless we have an overwhelming amount of power such that we can overcome two people simultaneously. And I don't really think that we have that exactly, so do kind of want to approach it that way. I think that this is our scout here. I think we had another scout here. And so we're going to be able to get a little bit of vision on some things. Oh, he is getting pushed. He is getting pushed. Pushed. Well, we might leave the guy in here because we expect to see an attack here. And we kind of want to know Theranos is blessed. But the map texture is becoming more obvious. And Theranos is kind of the big bad to some degree. And we have a nap with Theranos. I don't think we exactly want to fight Theranos because they have an Awake Pretender. But I think we want to be aware of solutions that we might have for them. Also see some weird stuff over here with Yomi, where they haven't grabbed a bunch of the territory. They've just grabbed the bridge. And looks like this is maybe even more open than we thought. Where is everybody? This is crazy. I mean, we think Roos is somewhere in here. But man, is everyone just so weak except for Theranos? Maybe Muspelheim's strong? Lanka's strong? We're trying to get to the bottom of this. I guess, looking at kind of what's going on and how much unclaimed stuff there is, we might even be like one of the stronger players right now, which is mildly bewildering. And we'll have to think this through a little bit. So with our Gentil, we will get this Dwarven Hammer. The Dwarven Hammer is online. It cost us 8 gems to forge that. Now, notice we're at 54 nature gems. We are going to forge a helmet here, and we're going to go down to 53. That is a 1-gem helmet. We're also not attacking up. This guy's going to be able to function a role of a hammer for us. We really wish that we had more Myru specifically for the Cynos. And I think we'll cover Cynos a little bit more when we actually fight them. But in particular, they line up pretty well, and our own troops don't line up very well at all. These Beckride heavy infantry. Gonna make a little bit of an adjustment here with our scout. We're gonna set him to retreat, just put him in back. And then we're going to move into Hot Hollows. We're going to bump it. And our goal is to see exactly what is on Hot Hollows before we head upstairs. It's become obvious with this being taken that Theranos is absolutely trouncing Xibalba. And I don't know if Xibalba has a lot of income in the south, but if Xibalba doesn't, Xibalba's super toasted. And so it's less imperative, I think, for us to scout the forests of Idun, which is something we were interested in, and instead we're going to check and see what's out in Hot Hollows, which we were going to do in a couple turns as this army came back, but we might as well just be turn efficient and check it here now. For our mage recruitment, we're going to come in here to the forest, and we're going to start recruiting these guys. Specifically, we're really looking for a air role. That would be fantastic, where they will be able to forge quills for really cheap. And so we are going to just put that in there and just keep it on repeat recruitment. No longer getting Tartalos, who of course can summon some allies here. And that'll work out well for us. And in Pyrene, I think that since we kind of just picked up a whole bunch of extra research, we're actually going to go with the Gentils, which will give us more overall gold, because Gentil is going to have 2 turns to recruit, and so he's only 250 a turn, and this allows us to get more heavy into the forging. We also don't want to miss an opportunity to get recruited Bebrick's Guard, and on the second turn, we will not need to spend another holy point, because the Gentil holy point will be paid for, so we're just going to add 1 to the queue. Even though it's going to be -1, that'll be fine. It'll be a placeholder, we can cancel it if we want to, and this will allow us to avoid accidentally not building stuff. Now, with that said, 1 more temple, and we will be able to recruit another one of these guys a turn anyways, and so having that in place, in case we forget, will also be nice. I actually think we're going to take a swing at some mercs out of Ulm here, especially considering, look, we have a bunch of unoccupied stuff that's really, really soft. So getting this quickly and getting it secured and getting it turns ahead of time is going to be valuable, and I am suspecting we will not have a squad that is sufficient next turn because we kind of lack a hammer. And Sinos do not have helmets, so they're kind of soft to archers, and at the same time, Sinos have a length 4 or length 3 weapon with +1 because they're size 4. Which we'll kind of get into a little bit, but we see two guys that are going to be kind of useful for helping us deal with this that we can afford to try and bid for just this turn. We'll make sure that we have Ulm selected, we do, and we'll look for recruiting for these guys. Archer's going to be fairly good because they don't have helmets, so if you bink them on the top of the head, it is going to be nice. We're going to offer 1 gold above the hiring cost. I'm not 100% sure what the metagame looks like in multiplayer for trying to hire mercs, but it seems like people are kind of not really hiring very many mercs, especially as things have gotten along here, but we just don't have enough troops right here, right now, and we have a lengthy supply line, so we want to get this going. And at the same time, I think we'll go for Bernard's Brave Men. These guys are pikemen. They have length 5 pikes, so they will be able to repel the Sinos, and I think if we put these guys in front, they can do or take a lot of the brunt of the damage. And then if we put the archers in back, they will be able to be a little bit killy. And then we'll be able to send these guys off together, probably to take another province into the Indies while we keep our main squad advancing towards Jibalba, something like this, and look to just push with these guys every single turn. And so we'll do this, we'll bed 1 more over the baseline here, and we'll try and see if we can just merc up a little bit. This is paying a lot for guys who go away, but we also don't have to pay maintenance on these guys. And so I do think that this is maybe reasonable. I'm not sure how good it is, but delaying here an additional turn when we're already delaying feels pretty bad here. Getting Alteration 3 is going to be really nice for this guy because he's going to get Stone Skin, he's going to have a helmet, and as of next turn, he's going to have a chest piece, as of next turn he's going to have a helmet, and so he will be really killy, and so having a big screening line for him so that we can kind of chuck him in and not worry too much is also going to be quite nice for us. Alright, another turn here completes. We get 2 messages from Atlantis. One, which is how you pronounce it underwater, although he misspells Unga Bunga, to the ongoing peace of our Sharedish island. Yeah, we're happy for this. He asks for nap 3, but next message he asks not to do it because it's binding. As for Airmore, he's getting attacked by Roos, so I imagine he's quite distracted. The snub of the envoy is interesting, though. Filthy surface dwellers. So that is quite interesting for us. We saw Roos had an ocean province. I can't remember where it was, and we moved our scout, so looking around on the map I couldn't figure out where exactly it was before, but it was curious that we had seen them expanding, and it seemed like Roos actually might have a ton of territory. I think it might have been this province here that Roos had, or something like that. No, it wouldn't have been this province, because Roos is somewhere over here. It might have been like this or this. But, okay. We also find the capital of Tianchi, in terms of news. And we finish our research into Evocation 1, and so now we need to have a bit of decision about what we're going to go next, because we're currently overflowing. And we had a little bit of this decision before. We could go into Conjuration. Just the thing is what we want out of Conjuration is Summon Earth Power, and that's really all we're getting. But it is so much cheaper to walk than it is to drive a loud car outside, especially with gas prices these days. And what that means for us in-game is that it might make sense to go for Conjuration, even though we're not going to get that much out of it, because Alteration 5 is like the next really big kind of breakpoint. That's super far away. Although from Alteration 4 we do get Temper Flesh is kind of what we're interested in with what we're doing, but Stone Skin as well. I suppose let's actually take a quick look at what we managed to recruit up in terms of our guy. Let's come down here and see what we got on this. Alright, we got a nature guy, and he is kind of okay for summoning Vineman. and we could maybe do a strategy for this. We're probably just going to stick up with the army and have him help out as best he can, so I'm going to have a little bit of a think here regarding what research I think is best, actually. Yeah, I think we're just going to go Conjuration 3. It's pretty straightforward, it's not that expensive, and if we want to start summoning troops, we kind of want to have access to it. Another idea is going Enchantment 2 for personal regeneration. I think that would also be okay. We have Claimant also in level 3. Regeneration, we don't really have the mages and the kind of setup for that, and so we're going to go Evocation 2, Conjuration 3, and then kind of reevaluate. It's probably going to be Alteration 4 after that, and then maybe another little bit of a think. But we have some battles, and the first is in Hot Hollows, where we wanted to investigate, hey, what's here? And watching this battle is really unnecessary. Unfortunately, our scout dies, but we do see what's in here, and that is 6 mages who all have paths in 2 levels of the path. We see 39 cave drinks. That is a lot. This is a really, really chunky unit. 58 hit points, 22 protection. This is not going to be easy to kill. And so this is not going to be something that we are going to take very easily at all. We see the wyverns here. We're going to need a weird sort of strategy, I think, to get in on these guys. Maybe scripting a guy and then just dropping him into the back line and like a couple of gentles just to try and kill these guys. Something like this with some magic weapons, and then maybe we could rout them. But these guys are really spooky. We can't just use a normal kind of battle. I think that they're also going to have gems, so we'll just like kind of check what it looks like. Our guy was supposed to just run away, so I guess he did that wrong. And we see a bunch of spells come in. We see the army here. See the mages. Yeah, they are chock full of gems, and so they are going to be able to cast an enormous amount of really powerful spells with those gems, using them to boost their paths and then kind of let it fly. And so that's not going to really suit us very well at all. So maybe there's a way for us to kind of set that up, but it's not in the near future. We also have the battle here in Abbey. Spoilers, we kind of viewed what happened here, but probably pretty straightforward for us. The Mouflins run forward and die to the lances. We have these guys charging in, and they should just get eviscerated, basically. Yeah, they make contact, and the first strike that these guys do does extra damage because they have a light lance. And so we wanted it on the Mouflins. We got exactly what we wanted, and then our guys get in. Myru come in behind. They split the squares, and okay. Kind of a little bit more attrition maybe than would have liked, but it does look like we do get to make kind of relatively short work of them. Let's see what the losses look like. 9 Great Mouflins dead, don't care about those. Bone Trap, actually fantastic on the attrition. We didn't lose a single Myru warrior. 49, quite a bit of damage from the Bebrix guards. Were twice as many of them, so the Myru are still more killy, but that is going to be pretty good for us. We did have a retreat over here, which is mildly annoying, but I think what we'll do is we'll just come back, and we'll maybe think about constructing a fort here, especially if we know this guy's fighting Roos. I don't think we necessarily need to get too into it. Could maybe avoid a situation where he's potentially gonna attack us. I was thinking about this a little bit, whether or not we should recruit Tartalo if we think that he might potentially attack us, and it was kind of a little bit of an interesting question. So the question should be, if you want to think about it, if you want to think through it, how much do we value a Tartalo at? Because then if we know how much we value a Tartalo at, then we can determine how probable he is to attack, what the probability needs to be in order for us to be indifferent as to whether or not we have recruitment and potentially break that recruitment because he takes the province from us. And let's say we value the Tartalo at 87.5 gold. It costs us 70 gold to build. We have to value it at more gold than what it costs, otherwise we would never produce it ever. And if we value it at 87.5, let's say, then in an instance, and we ignore the fact that spending time to construct it is like a consideration, just very straightforward. If we value it at that, then we need to be 80% sure that he won't attack us for building a Tartalo to be a break-even action. And the reason for that is, in 4 out of 5 instances, we will get the extra value from building the Tartalo, the 87.5, and in 1 of those 5 instances, we will lose the 70 gold here. And so 70 gold versus 17.5 multiplied by 4, it's break even. In terms of the way you look at it, 4 parts versus 1 part, which is 80%, right? And so had a little bit of think of that. And so what are the odds he attacks us? Knowing that he's fighting Roos and this is not a mega huge squad, I'd say it's probably good enough for us to go for another Tartalo. So we will do that. And come back here, because this decision's a little bit different. This guy we 100% save, and not going to risk him in that way. Okay, but we also have a battle in the underworld, which is one we were concerned about for some time. We spent a really long time, very proactively. We built forever ago the temple to produce these guys so that we would have a surplus of them. But okay, we do our blesses, they start coming in, and there is the Stellar Decrees kind of putting down some damage here. And the Mouflin die, but that's what they're there for. And so the Beckrides are in next. The Beckrides are dying, but they're just a chaff wall, right? Some of the Mouflins run, and now these guys just have to hold the line as we cast a bunch of Stellar Decrees. So it doesn't look like we're getting very much damage at all out of our guys, but more so just the massive AoE of the Stellar Decrees. And it looks like they're routing. Fantastic for us. So what's the damage here in the underworld? We lose 3 Bebrix guards, not too bad. We use some Bebrix infantry. We lose some Bebrix hunters and Beckrite infantries, and then a bunch of Mouflins and only 1 Myru warrior. So we don't really attrition the units we care about very much at all here. And we promised to move the guys out of this province immediately, so this is what we'll do. We could keep a guy in Preach if we wanted to kind of do this for whatever reason. I don't think we want to, so we will continue on. Also, we don't necessarily have to pick up the Mouflins. They don't have any maintenance, and after a certain point, we probably will just like leave 10 Mouflin in a bunch of provinces to just make them harder to raid, I think. Or if we get too oversaturated with them, because you don't want too many of them in the battle. So we have an unexpected event in the Nethermines. Fortunately, we earned some unrest, so that's going to be decreased income. And then another event here, minus 1700 pop in Abbey, which, oh my god. I didn't even realize this was a 100 income province. Let's not forget to do that. But also, they have pretty good province defense. This unfortunately just gets cavemen. They have pretty good province defense. We could even consider adding more. I don't think we will. Also, they have recruitable these guys, so we'll kind of just put these on repeat and slowly earn some units there. But, well, actually, should we? We have enough money for some stuff. I think we actually just bank and don't force ourselves to build a fort this turn, as tempting as it is, but I didn't even realize how valuable this province was. That's fantastic for us. There's another battle in Abbey, little barbarian uprising, which you can get if you have under 6 province defense, which we did. So we roll one of these things. They make short work of them. We won't watch the battle, just a little bit of a raid. And then we do manage to hire up both of the mercenaries. So I think we're going to set up our army now and be back with that. Alright, let's take a look at what we are doing. At the very front, we have the pikemen mercenaries, then we have our Bebrix. We have a total of 50 Bebrix, so that is quite a bit, and these guys are Very tanky and should be able to do quite well. We actually rolled spectacularly well in terms of how many Sinos there are this turn. Behind them, we have the Byra Warriors to kind of bring the hammer. And then behind that, we have the Archers. The Archers are on Fire Archer. This will hit the Sino Archers, cause them to berserk, and they will run in. I'm not 100% sure if this is good, but if we're firing the Archers, we're less likely to hit our own guys. And then in back, we have the 22 Cave Clouds and also 4 Great Mouflins. The Mouflins will run in like idiots. The Mouflins actually probably just aren't even useful here, so let's just leave them there, and maybe we have them bring up the rear at some point, but I think they're just going to run in and die without too much. Actually, you know what? They're going to eat javelins from the enemies, so that'll actually be kind of okay if they're on fire closest. We also have some scripts. We have this guy set up with his couple weapons, up to 21 protection. There's 5 natural protection there, and when he casts Personal Iron Skin, he'll go up to 15 here, and so he will get plus 10 protection up to 31, and how I think this works. I'm not sure if it stacks with diminishing returns, but yeah, he should be in really good shape. And then he'll have 2 attacks, which is great, and we have him fire, so he'll rattle off his javelins, fire in the rear, and then he will kind of dive in and just kind of run up the middle, which is exactly what we want for him. He's right here, kind of in the back line, and he'll wade through these size 3 troops and get to the back, trying to do damage. Our other kind of big damage dealer here is going to be a combination of the Cave Cows. The Sinos don't have helmets, so the Corrosive Smiths, if they hit them on the head, if they go bonk, this will be really good for us. And eventually the Cave Cows will get in and wade through all these size 3 troops. They have kind of decent attack, and the bite does decent damage, but will attrition a lot of Cave Cows if it comes down to that, which it might, because these guys are very good at defending. In particular, Sinos will get repelled by these guys. These guys have a hella experience, but kind of not the best stats, so okay, shout out to the loud car outside. And I think that's most of our explanation here. We just are casting Bless with the other guys. Here we just went Personal Iron Skin on this guy and then animate a couple trees and then advance and cast spells. Not exactly sure what he's going to be up to, but we can't really do that great of things with his script anyways, but we want to take him along because we want to be able to recruit Sinos next. Now, on the previous turn we rolled 80 units, 80 Sinos. On the turn before that there were 90. I think 40 is the lowest roll we've seen out of here. We've seen 50s, we've seen 60s. So this means we super mega like luck sack here because we're facing less than half the amount of Sinos we thought we might have to. We would not have needed the mercs for 40. That would have been fine. But we wanted to guarantee getting this in this turn because I think this is going to mean a lot of additional lands for us, and so that's kind of where we are with that. Kind of would be a little bit keen on finding where Yomi's at, and maybe if Airmore is fighting Roos is somewhere in here, and I'm not sure exactly how big and strong Roos is, but this is a little bit of a curious one. Also, if Theranos knows that Roos is fighting them, where would they know that from exactly? This seems, oh, they know it from here. The map is just very disorienting. You can see what's going on right here. Interesting. Very interesting. The fact that they're fighting is super nice for us. Also, Atlantis is keeping information and is also reciprocating information. Notably, because last turn we told Atlantis that these two were fighting, Xibalba and Theranos, and he returned the favor by saying that these two were fighting. And so, something worth noting, perhaps, that they are going to be somewhat transactional in this. They also forted up, it looks like, that throne there. We also do see that Kailasa's capital is sieged here. We're a little bit keen on seeing exactly what Lanka's up to with this, and so we will just sit on top of the Kailasa siege. But it looks like Kailasa's about dead in that case. We kind of thought that they were dead before. Muspelheim really only has one direction to go at this point. Yomi is right here, but other than that, I think it's all Muspelheim and Lanka. So Lanka's probably going to have their hands full with Muspelheim, given that this is the only thing that Muspelheim can really do here. So for our Gentil, we have to try and think as far ahead as possible on the turns we spend forging, or in terms of we have to try and identify what items we need before we need them. We know we're going to need dwarven hammers, so the real absolute safest thing that we could do with this guy is make another dwarven hammer. But there's a lot of other items on our radar, and a lot of it depends on who we think we have to fight. And so this is unfortunate because some of these things are committal, but the things that are going to be, for us, very generic are going to be dwarven hammers. We're going to need a handful of these in order to get more forging done. And we have another gentle coming out next turn. So he will immediately have a dwarven hammer, and they will both be able to forge stuff together. But I think it's worth mentioning that we have, in Tier 3, several items on our radar. We have Coral Blades for our kind of more squishy mages to have a bunch of extra HP. Not that bad in combat. Stinger, interesting ideas for higher length, allowing us to repel. Probably a little bit deep in the tank. We have Axe of Sharpness if we want to be able to use a shield. If we don't want to be able to use a shield, we could use the Great Sword of Sharpness. Both of these will be really nice for killing giants if we somehow find ourselves fighting Muspelheim. The Lightning Rod is an interesting one because we will get Repel early. If we don't really need extra damage to kill stuff, this is maybe something that's reasonable. It's also blunt damage in case something's resistant to blunt or resistant to slashing, piercing, this type of thing. It also will give us Corpse Construction bonus. We will maybe be casting that spell, and so as far as we have for giving a weapon, this is maybe a reasonable weapon to give early on that scales better late game. Also shock resistance, maybe kind of okay on Sorginas so they don't accidentally shock themselves. This is kind of what we're looking at in terms of weapons, generally speaking here. There's a few other items that the Sorginas can forge. We could make this Pebble Pouch. Giants throw rocks. I think it's a little bit too cute. Unfortunately, shields, we don't have very good options. This does require Water Magic level 2, but we can roll Water Magic level 2 on him, but it's also 10 cost, so don't really have the best options here. We're going to be forging a ton of these, but it'd be nice for us to have at least one of these hanging around in case we want to start summoning some guys. This is kind of an okay piece to give to mages. Really low encumbrance, gives them some good survivability. Invulnerability doesn't really pair that well with the fact that our guys can cast Personal Iron Skins since they can give themselves natural protection. Going to be forging a ton of these. And so when all else fails, we're probably going to be forging the equipment. Boots of Launch Strides may be worth forging. There's better options later, but also Swiftness can be used in combat if we want to just rush the backline without having fly. We can have a good flanker with that. And then Bracers of Protection, I think, does apply. Temper Armors, I think, applies to Bracers of Protection or something like this. If we use these on top of what we're already using, boy, the guys will be really unkillable. And so that's also going to be something that we're in the mood for. Also, Flask of Holy Water will allow us to put our Bless on Bazahuans without any additional assistance. So maybe you want to have at least one of these hanging around if we want to use one of those as a raider, because they cannot self-bless. And so this will give them the reinvigoration as well as all the other stuff they need. And that's kind of what we have our eyes on in terms of what they can forge. And don't want to forge with the Sorginas too much. But Thunder Whip is maybe an idea. It is one of the few AoE things, and so it is nice to use on a thug. She forges some things we could reasonably use as a ranged weapon. We could also think about empowering one of the Gentils. But like the most important thing that we're going to be getting out of anyone who's got air power is going to be Owl Quills. And to that end, I don't hate empowering the Gentle immediately with air and then just letting it rip every turn on an Owl Quill, because the amount of turns that we need for that to pay for itself is actually not that high, because they will save us 4 a turn and they'll save us 1 a turn relative to if we manage to find a Bazawan who's going to have a forge bonus, so he will be able to forge Owl Quills for 2 with a hammer. But we're probably going to want multiple Owl Quill forging going on so that we can really, really ramp up research. And we really don't have that much air jump income. as well. So this is maybe a little bit of an idea that we'll consider next turn. Another idea is we actually wouldn't mind getting a Gentil kind of grouped up with the army if we're going to push Xibalba, because they will be able to buff the army pretty well. Alright, so spent quite a long time thinking about what we're supposed to do with this 1,000 gold, and trying to think about the texture of things as they are unfolding. As it looks, we have in very bad shape Airmore, I think. But I would like to verify that Airmore is having some very significant struggles. If Airmore's having some struggles, we want to just gobble up this backside while they kind of occupy themselves with Rus and just opportunistically leap on them. We can't leap on Kailasa because Kailasa's finished and we don't have a means of getting over there. We have access to Airmore, and on top of that, wanted to spend gold and wanted to build a fort. Thought a long time about building one in Deep Waygor. We had cancelled the recruitment of another one of those guys just to get to the 1,000 mark. Deep Waygor would give us the most long-term income. I think what we want is we want to be able to recruit Myru champions. We can't recruit them out of anywhere. The only place that is a hill fort that is going to be a nice fort for us, I mean, we could save for going over here for the Highlands, but this really leaves this one location. And Airmore, leaving us kind of with unfinished or undone Diplo, I don't want to, into the darkness, construct a fort for 5 turns and be vulnerable and have him be able to see that we're constructing a fort. And so, we're going to try and turn everything dark on him. We're going to set 2 guys on patrol, and gut out his assassins that I assume are sneaking about. And I think we're going to bring this army back, link up with some more troops from Pyrene, and go after Airmore. If we knew that Airmore 100% was secured, I think we might send the army elsewhere. But I don't want to poke him and be like, hey bud, are you good? I thought about doing this, because we have to decide once we're in Deep Waygor where we're going. This is the pivotal point where we either go to Pelea or we go to Pyrene. And so we can also pivot our decision, but we are prepping for this kind of situation because we want a fort in a place where we can start recruiting Myru champions. This guy didn't agree to a nap with us. If he agreed with a nap, we would have just put down a fort here. But now we don't feel safe putting down a fort here, and I don't think the slight little bit of extra income from Deep Waygor is exactly what we want right now. We want mage recruitment, specifically our Thuggy mages, which is going to be the Myru champion, and also these guys. And also, just floating this gold, we're going to build a fort in the temple here to recruit Sino guys. Or not a fort in a temple, a lab in a temple here. I don't think we're going to fort this. I think we'll just add a whole bunch of province defense, because the Sino province defense is really mean. And then we are going to have several forests. And these forests, forting or templing and labbing them will allow us to recruit up our mages. So this will actually be really nice if we can kind of secure this area. And so we'll consider now if we want to send a message to Tianchi and Yomi. But I think that what we want to do is try and make the most out of potentially some bad situation for Airmore. I'd love to get eyesight on this. And so this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 provinces this way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I guess it's a little bit faster. But this gains us more information overall. This is why we recruited the additional scout as well. It would be nice if we had some Zots at this point, because they would be able to fly and scout much easier than the scouts we currently have. So maybe we should have built a lab here some time ago and gone for the Camazots here. At this point, we could still do it, actually. Okay, given that in the Sino province we want 2 pieces of infrastructure, and we actually have to commit to Myru warriors this turn, and a Gentil is going to be finished, and I think one of these guys is finishing next turn. I'm not sure we'll actually have enough to build a lab in Hidden Realm anyway. We could do the math on it, but I also like the idea of us just kind of being relatively open on being able to hire some mercs, especially when we get to Titan Breath Peaks, if we go that route. And just floating the money is a little bit more flexible here, where we will be able to merc up if we have to, do this type of thing. And so do want to kind of adjust the approach a little bit here. We were going to move one of these guys down. I think we'll just move them both up now. And then we will recruit one more and we'll send one down. But a little bit of a hedge. Also, we do want to get our own Dominion here anyways, even if we don't decide to go in on Airmore, but I'm thinking that's the direction things are looking, especially given how extended the supply line is. I don't really know. It would take us so many turns to march from there to Xibalba, and not a lot of turns to march to Airmore. So if we're trying to expand our power base, it's not essential that we get rid of Xibalba off the map immediately, especially if Xibalba is just circling the drain anyways. An environment where we just kind of claim this big chunk of stuff actually might be better than if we were to push all the way to Xibalba, because we don't necessarily want to get in Theranos' way. If Theranos wants to have a super long supply line and start fighting Rus or Xianxi or something like this is fine with us. We just want to secure as much of this as possible, because things don't look that great for Xibalba anyways. But we don't know how far south Xibalba is. It could be really far south. Rus could be like here, and Rus could be really weak, just kind of trying to curve it on Airmore. Don't know exactly. Gonna try and get some more of this information here with the scout here, and another scout coming in. But we'll try and maintain some amount of flexibility here. But the game plan is starting to look like going in on Airmore after a little bit of reflection. Just because can't safely build a fort here. Unless we have a big army here, and if we have a big army here, it's wasted if we're not using it, so this is what it's looking like. Alright, we rattle off a message here to Muspelheim. It may interest you to know that Lanka is currently sieging Kailas' capital at 81, that's the location number, on the land bridge to your east. That is going to be, I think, a piece of information that they will value, and also gives them an opportunity to attack into Kailasa, or kind of maybe attack into Lanka, which we wouldn't mind either of those scenarios kind of coming about, but I think it's going to turn their attention east in either way, either kind of preparing for Lanka's coming back, or attacking Lanka proactively, or finishing off the segments of Kailasa that are down here, or letting him know that he can maybe operate down south a little bit safer into Yomi. All of this we're really fine with, just trying to give him an opportunity that involves him not thinking, hey, look at that land bridge there. So we rattle off a message to Tianxi. I think that this will be useful for us to gain first contact. We don't seek any conflict. We don't really want to fight them. We would rather them fight one of their other neighbors like Rus, Lanka, or Yomi, and leave the peninsula to the north to us. We seek simply a couple forest province for my forest recruit mages, and a path to Xibalba. While true, this will cut him off of the expansion to the north, so he'll need other ideas, or he'll need to fight us. Depending on how he responds, we'll see. I think he is a little bit weaker, but there's a world where we can't get to Xibalba because Tianxi wants to fight us, or something like this. A world where we even stall out here, this type of thing, which means smaller supply line. But there's a bunch of provinces to the north. I think Tianxi is struggling with their expo, and so I'm less worried about them, but I'm not exactly sure what's going on. Rus has also hired most of the mercenaries, so I assume Rus is one of the stronger players, so they know where Rus is probably better than we do, though. We just know Rus is somewhere over here to the right of them, but okay. As a token of good faith, I can tell you that across the bridge, Yomi has left provinces to the independents, and my scouts have encountered no presence. To your south, Lanka wars Kailasa, getting the best of them. Far to the south, we don't really want to reveal a ton of information on Lanka here. I don't think that Lanka is super far outstretched. But they are just trying to inform them that the two are at least fighting. Don't want to tell them that Airmore and Rus are fighting. We haven't seen this for ourselves as much, and trying to get a little bit more information on that ourselves. But right now, nobody really threatens Tianchi. And this is maybe worth noting, and also would be great for us to get a response from Tianchi in kind of a more immediate fashion, because we can still... We think that we are going to fight Airmore because Airmore has been the only person who's not responded in a friendly way to our friendly missive. Well, we actually didn't message Xibalba. We just kind of assumed, and then they kind of wanted to go after us anyways. But this gives us an opportunity to see where Tianchi is at. And if Tianchi regards us aggressively, we could maybe even adjust with Airmore and not go after Airmore. And instead push into Tianchi, something like this. Especially because Tianchi does not have a fight. Airmore has a fight, so they're currently fighting Rus. If Tianchi has no fight, and so whoever Tianchi chooses to attack, or they'll continue to try and expand into independence, whoever they choose to attack is going to be acquiring a lot of additional pressure on themselves, right? And so we would rather that not be us. And so we're sending out a little bit of a message. Just trying to Diplo so far. The Diplo seems to be really productive. We're up to 20 locations. We don't have open conflict yet, which is good, and we're expanding into various things. And we know that there's a bunch of free expo here. Unless Tianchi has grabbed like Mushwood, but then we could go Mammoth Grove, Palmania, Packwoods, and get a whole bunch of Forest Province, which is also really important. We might even fort Packwoods, because it's right next to the Two Thrones, and it is a highland. And with this highland, we would be able to kind of execute the plan we had mentioned before, where we could just give this back to Airmore. But we'll see kind of where things fall next turn, or the turn after, rather. And so we won't really know what exactly is going to happen until we are moving into Deep Waygor, how things look diplomatically. But we have the flexibility of 1, 2, 3 turns, or actually... Since we're moving a bunch of guys up, and we're going to maybe be able to spread our dominion, it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 6. Or, from here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then towards Tianchi. So we do have kind of a similar distance to go, and already a monstrous force here that's coming up into Great Sea Note. So that would be a more concentrated force for us to do into Tianchi rather than into Airmore. So it's almost better for us, especially if Tianchi is really weak. See that they've already... This is interesting too. They've built and upgraded a fort, which I don't think is normally a play. I guess I don't really know. But if that's the case, then maybe they're a little bit... I mean, we know, like, this is untaken. I don't think they've gained much provinces. I suppose we'll get a response from them. And we might just try and dogpile Xibalba and Airmore, or we might divert everything to Tianchi based on it. But if Tianchi leaves us alone and we get all this, this is probably expo that could have gone to Tianchi pretty reasonably. And if we have no enemies and we get all this, and we're up to like 25 locations, not even including us going after pieces of Xibalba and Airmore, this is really good for us. Would be very keen to try and see where Atlantis is at with all this, though. Because Atlantis also doesn't have a fight with anyone right now. And so maybe rattle off a message to them too. I think we'll just feed some more information to Atlantis, let them know who we think is strongest, which is who we think is strongest, excluding ourselves from kind of this equation. Theranos, Lanka, and Rus. I have the least vision on Rus, which is true. Our strongest at the moment is Kailas appears dead very soon, which is also true. Keen on kind of seeing exactly what Lanka's cooking with, but I really... We're gonna have to look at Lanka's Bless a little bit more. I kind of want to see it in action a little bit more, and see how it works with their guys. because it is a bit intriguing just stacking a whole bunch of defense. But that will be our third message here that we're sending out this turn, so trying to maintain active. Now, if we continue to do well, and get... Another thing is, next turn, or on a subsequent turn, we might hire a mercenary so that we can go into Triton Sea and then try and loop around or something like this, and kind of all hands on deck. If we do fight Airmore, what we'll look to do is this turn we attack from here, hire mercs here, and hire mercs here, go into here if we can, if we have some amphibious mercs, and then like try and push multiple places all at once. But if we expand and we start to look spooky, that's a problem. So we have to try and think about how we avoid looking spooky. And people having not so much vision is good, and people not talking to each other is good, but we can't really control the latter. Controlling the former is also a little bit difficult. I think once people figure out that... I think Theranos is likely to figure out somewhat soon that we're about to grab all this. And or Theranos maybe has grabbed some of this. We don't know. Because they actually have direct contact with this. And so... that would throw a wrench in our plans, very much. We hope that's not the case. We want a path to Xibalba, but the fact that we see no movement here implies to me actually that they just want to take unoccupied stuff. And I don't know exactly how far they extend. I think they have this. By seeming of it, Rus might have some of this. So maybe Theranos isn't that big. But if Theranos is smaller here, that means Rus is even bigger. And we saw Bruce murking up a lot, so trying to... Theranos is the one who has the most information. And so I think I like the idea of us staying nap with them and staying friendly with them. Because we will, if we continue to get stronger, be able to conceal our strength for a longer period of time this way. And so I think that'll be good for us. I think we'll also message Lanka and Atlantis if we do go in on Airmore, just as like a courtesy message. That just seems kind of friendly and also like lets them know what's going on, because we did ask them for help with that. And that would, if Atlantis decides to dogpile Airmore, because we attack Airmore, and Lanka decides to turn around and go for him, Airmore will get diced up pretty quick. So that's also maybe a way that we can effectively close the front for ourselves here. Alright, so we have here turn 20. We get a message from Lanka. They want to cement the non-aggression pact and make it official. We will make it, of course, Facebook official. We are buddies now, which we are fine with, and also he's been friendly towards us. And he is taking out, he signs it, the disrespect the remaining monkeys. And he does have a battle against Kailasa. Kailasa attacked Lanka, but was defeated. This sallying out was a little bit desperate, but I don't know what else you could do, because otherwise he's just going to wait forever, right? I think you can starve the siege out too. So he tried to summon as many guys as he could, and he had a little bit of a go at it, and now loses 152 out of 214, so probably going to see Lanka assaulting that relatively soon. And we see kind of tail of the tape a little bit. The effective soldiers for Kailasa were the Yavanna archers, which is what they took their bless for, but they don't really kill very much more than their own numbers. So not that killy into what we have from Lanka, whose very effective force is their capital only sacreds. Notably, these guys size 4, so the boost to size 5 doesn't decrease their attack density. And these are the guys with the big stat bless with a bunch of defense, and then they also have the Revenge 1 that gives extra attack and defense, and the if you kill something, you get extra attack and defense. However, well, I guess a big chunk of them died. I just don't know that they have a good way to proc the Revenge stuff without losing their own troops. But okay, let's view the battle. It will be a little bit interesting here. We'll kind of zoom out. We adjusted the sound down a little bit, because we were finding it pretty loud. But it looks like he's got 3 separate groupings. We get Blood Surge procced here on this guy, who does in fact get a kill. A way to avoid this getting procced is to use inanimates. So if we were to ever fight Kailasa, we would try and make a kind of point of using inanimate troops if we can. And then we see with their fire arrows bless here and invulnerable, the archers are kind of coming in. When I experimented with Kailasa, I really didn't like invulnerable because what you get from invulnerable does not stack with natural protection, and you have earth magic for giving you natural protection, and so it really feels like it's only good until you get your earth magic online, and then it really falls off. And so Kailasa did the best that they could, given the circumstances. It looks like they have these guys on attack rear, so they're going to have a little bit of a go. Clockwork soldiers maybe on attack closest, and they try and loop around and go for them. Mages, but the mages are summoning a bunch of skellies, slowing them down here. Looks like this plan. They also have bodyguards, which is maybe worth noting. Some militias on the bodyguard as well. And then the Lanka Sacreds do get into the mix and do put down a lot of damage. Something that's worth noting is they have these Ganas. These Ganas kind of make a decent anvil in the sense that they have no protection. They have 10 hit points, so they're not that defensive. 10 strength, don't really do much damage. But they have Spectral Club. Ooh, this is magic damage too? That's good to know. If we ever fight them, we'll have to kind of keep this in mind that they have some blunt damage. But Ethereal will negate 75% of hits. I think these guys are slashing damage, yeah. And did that guy have... This guy's got Righteous Wrath active, so one of his homeboys died. You can see that is going to help their attack strength skill. Kind of curious how these guys do on encumbrance. Their defense is massively boosted by their bless bonus +5. But something that we were thinking about them was that they might fatigue down, and their defense might also get hurt by them getting harassed a lot. And so if you have worse attack density per square, this means it's easier for you to get harassed down to face a higher number of attacks than you're putting out. And so this is something that we are concerned about, or kind of thought that they might reinvigorate. So this guy's fatigue currently is lowering his defense. And if you really get fatigued out and you also get harassed down, eventually the defense is going to just be pretty poor. But I guess this offsets it. This guy's with both Blood Surge and Righteous Wrath active, 27 strength, very killy, 35 damage, attack skill 19. You kind of have increasing marginal returns on the extra strength stat, and this gives 3 attack and strength, and I think like 6 morale, and this gives 3 attack and strength, and I think it gives a little bit of defense. I can't remember how much you get from Blood Surge. 1 defense, so kind of a little bit interesting, but he's really leaning on these Sacreds for trying to win here. And yeah, Kailasa's gimmick only works if they mass an enormous amount of those archers somehow, and they're capital only. I think I don't like that way of approaching it, but we do see kind of a little bit more of how Lanka is handling things here. I'm not sure what I would have in mind instead of defense, all these points in defense, but I still have mixed feelings about it. But okay, let's quit this battle replay, and fair enough. And we also got a little bit of info on Yomi, because we saw one of their battles. Now, the battle itself is a little bit less interesting, but the bless is perhaps something we could take a look at. But he blesses himself, he throws up a bunch of stuff, and then his script is a little bit weird from my perspective. I think there's a mod for the multiplayer. I don't know exactly what the mod's doing, but I think it makes them more casty. And so I have to try and figure out what's up with this. But I don't know if his script is to attack. Our Myru had a script to fire, which for us should just make him attack forward, but this guy is very difficult to kill. He is pierce resistant, blunt resistant, slash resistant, and he has regeneration. This is going to be very effective at not dying, and they have unholy weapons, which is going to make them very effective at killing sacred. So if we fight him, we will probably have our Tartalos and our Myru set to attack largest, which is an approach that we could have here. We do find a couple magical sites. We find the Mercury Pond, 2 more gem income for the water, and then we find also, I believe, the Garden of Frozen Flowers, which is another source of water. So quite a bit in that regard. But we could also just take a look at the Bless itself on these guys. 10 regeneration, Unholy Weapons, and Fortitude. I believe Fortitude should say Incarnate Only next to it. I believe it's Incarnate Only, but all of these combined make these guys very difficult to kill. So if we fight them, we'll have to have a strategy specifically for them. But also, this seems relatively all in. This is 10 points of Bless. The Unholy Weapons is, I think, 6 points, and I think the other two are 7 points each. So with an Awake Pretender, 20 points of Bless is a very significant investment. So that is going to be a little bit of a thing here. Monkey Bones is probably dead. But his Bless was the Flaming Weapons and Invulnerability. And then we have that Stings with the Fire Resistance, Defense Skill 5. I think I would have just preferred a bunch of resists. I think his build is one where he could have gone Cold Resistance, Lightning Resistance, Poison Resistance, something like this, and I think that would have been a little bit preferable. But, okay, it looks like he's bought a bunch of stats and he's doing pretty good with them. And then we have our battle, which was the battle in Great Sea Note. Kind of works exactly how we want. The pikes die a lot, so we attrition out the pikes. We lose a bunch of heavy infantries, don't lose much guards, do lose a big chunk of Myro warriors, but manage to punch through the Sinos here. Let's just take a look at their stat line here, but they get 2 attacks. Yeah, let's take a look at the warriors, because the guys who will be in front. They get 2 attacks, and they get Berserker, which is going to increase their strength, attack, and make their morale incredibly high. And their 20 hit points, and so these guys are just very, very killy. They do have less density in terms of only 2 can fit per square, but still just doing an absolutely monstrous kind of job here, considering they were outnumbered 2.5 to 1. We had similar casualties. That just kind of goes to show why we were so afraid of Sinos in general. But we have here our boys, and then this guy is the one in back is the mage, and he kind of gets it up in there, and he's just gonna try and javelin. We've noticed that javelin be pretty effective in some of our testing, so let's slow it down here. The pikemen do get in. We are getting some arrow shots into their backline, which is going to cause them to berserk and walk up, and they'll stop shooting us. This might have been a little bit of a mistake. We should have maybe just tried to fire on this guy, because once they're berserked, they won't retreat. So we kind of made it so the arrow guys won't retreat, even if we wipe out the squad in front, and maybe that's a bit of a mistake. The Myro can come in and do a decent chunk of damage. These guys are berserking, and so you can see the increased strength and attack. And we're not one-shotting them, generally speaking, with too much stuff. I think at the very end of the line, where we have the Myro who has, rather than the club, he's got like the axes and stuff over his shoulder. This is the champion. No, that's not the champion. Where's the champion? Is he right here? Yes, so this is the champion here. And doing okay. Kind of pushes forward. 42 damage, just bonk. One shot. Very, very killy. Don't even have to give them a weapon with the maul like that, and the javelin also does a tremendous amount of damage. But then we saw him casting a little bit more than kind of we had thought. But we have to kill all these guys, because they're not going to rout. But here he casts Earth Grip a few times, which I think the AI in vanilla is less likely to do this, and we'll just run at them. And so I think that the script is, there's like an AI script in here, and so I have to try and understand exactly what's going on there. I don't know if there's the like improved casting mod or something like this, but I will try and get to the bottom of that. But this guy kind of ran up the gut a little bit. He didn't get as many kills as I had anticipated he might, but he did get 2, so man per man, he is the most killy guy here, because Myro Warriors only got 1 kill. Cave Cows really did quite well. The Bedrock's Guards, of course, also did well, but I was really surprised to see so many kills from the Cave Cows. Also, decent amount of kills from the Archers. I guess these guys not having helmets kind of was a pretty significant factor here, because it kind of makes you really soft against Archers, and so we do manage to get up there into Great Sea Note. Now, I think that we're not going to, in Pyrene, continue to recruit a bunch of these kind of Myru warriors, and so that kind of sets the tone in terms of what we're looking at. Money-wise, we have 900 to spend, and I think that we want to focus research a little bit, so we're going to swap to a Sorgina, so we have 979 in terms of our spend, and we'll take a little bit of thought of how we want to do that, but we do get a nice roll here. We get a nice roll with this gentleman. We're going to transfer the bodyguards over to him because he's the guy we most do not want to die. We aren't going to set a script for him to defend against something because I don't think we could get hit by anything here. But with this guy, we do hit the air magic roll, so that's going to make it maybe not worth empowering just for the purposes of getting the owl quills out faster, because we're going to give this guy the Dwarven Hammer. And with that, we will be able to, you see that we have 55 air gems, we will be able to, for 2 gems, down to 53 air gems, forge these owl quills, because he has a forge bonus of 1 base, plus the extra 2 from the hammer. And this is going to be really valuable for us to allow us to kick up research quite a lot. We kind of want 2 of these guys, so we're going to continue on recruiting them. But that means that this Gentle will not have something to do. And we have to decide whether we want to send the Gentle up, which we can do, or send the Gentle down. And so, gonna have a little bit of a think of how we want to spend and where we want this Gentle to go. Also, Olm Envoy, we might want to start having site search instead of research, but we'll have a little bit of a think on that. Alright, so in Great Sea Note, I think we're just fine to move on. We're not going to go for Forest of the Long Nights. We're not going to look to try and bump into Tianchi. I think that we're going to avoid this province for now. Foul spawns are pretty spooky. Would rather just kind of preserve numbers a little bit and see if we can fan out or do something else. But that really gets in the way of moving up to Linshire. And so maybe this was part of why this was left untaken. However, once it gets cold enough, we should just be able to cross from Great Sea Note, which also will put us next to Yomi. So I'm not sure we send a Yomi a message this turn. Kind of want to see if they send a message. So far, no one's reached out to us first, but not sure exactly what we're going to go with. Yomi probably can't be too terribly strong, as spooky as their bless is, because we know that they're like under 24 provinces, or we know that they're under 22, and probably under 20, just by what we know of the map over here. I don't know exactly what Muspelheim's up to. They're getting our message this kind of turn, but what we will be doing is we will be getting ready to start recruiting mages out of here right away. This is why we took the guy who is why we took the priest and the mage, so that we could build both of these, so that we could start recruiting the Cynocephalian shamans, which will allow us to break into astral and death, and also search for these magic sites, which is going to be very nice for us, and we currently don't have that capability. But also, the Cynocephalian warrior, kind of an undercosted unit. It is 5 points more than our Bebric's Guard. It's not as good as our Bebric's Guard, but we're limited on the number of guys we can recruit. And this guy is pretty solid, and I think he works just fine, kind of in the back line against the Zots, and we could use these guys to expand. So I think we're going to take a sizable expansion for them. Now with this, we notice, hey, the limiting factor... Well, to be fair, the limiting factor is also recruitment points too. I was about to say that a Gentle here would be really nice, but it wouldn't make that big a difference because it only allow a couple more recruitments, because recruitment points is going to be a throttle. But that is going to be something for us. And then I think we're going to go, and we're definitely going to go up to this. But the province defense for these guys is so good. Was thinking of just going up to this immediately, avoiding more negative events. We'll stay at 6 for now and see if there's anything else we want to spend gold on. Are a little bit concerned about Yomi, but they currently can't cross this, I don't think. I don't think they have the ability to do that, unless I'm mistaken. Yeah, these guys are not amphibious. So I think that we kind of don't necessarily... We want to keep our gentle turns a little bit dynamic. And so it'd be preferable for us, regarding moving up or down, we kind of would prefer to move up in terms of just the maneuvering of the armies and stuff. But I think that there's a chance that we just want him to make equipment, and there's no lab in Pelea. There's a lab down here in Ulm. We're probably going to search Ulm with him, because he will give us access to Earth 3 on the search. But this will give us the option of doing stuff with him in terms of foraging. And also, if things go a little bit sideways, having them in Ulm or Pelea or anywhere off of Pyrene kind of shortens the supply line in terms of getting a good mage there effectively for us. Although getting mages there is easier than getting these Myru warriors here. These Myru warriors, by the way, if we have a fort that is on a hill, we can recruit, the warriors, we can recruit the Myru warriors. So that's something that's worth noting. But then with this guy, we will prep another hammer here. And so next turn, this guy will be able to forge with a hammer. So we're up to 3 hammers now, which if we use every hammer each turn, they effectively are going to be earning us 6 gems a turn. And so really trying to be proactive with this gem economy and have quite a bit of water gem income, especially with the new 2 sites that we have found this turn. So we'll have to try and figure out a good use for them. We're still moving around with the Sorginas and searching, and we will continue to do so. But next turn, with Deep Oegor kind of getting this confluence of a bunch of additional troops, both coming from here, which our guy just forced shuffling around troops almost is at capacity here. But we should be able to, next turn, kind of decide, hopefully, in a reasonable way, where it is that we're going. And maybe we'll also get a little bit more information down here. And maybe information seeking, maybe that's kind of something we'd be interested in. And we could recruit a scout up here. We could also take a Cynocephalian chief. The problem with the chiefs is they have berserkers, so likely to lose your leader if we have them up there. We have a scout down here already. We know Tianqi's capital is here, and so we can infer there's a lot of stuff down here, and then we know Lanka is here. So I don't know how much we value necessarily the information. We also have a scout sitting here, just kind of waiting. And so to kind of see what's going on. And it does look like Xibalba is moving scorpions, so it looks like they're coming back to claim some of this from Therados. We do have a scout coming up in the Abyss. And so if we in the Abyss we see a bunch of Xibalban troops kind of sitting here, or we see what looks like a push through here looking really soft, then maybe we could even send these troops south. So having this flexibility is pretty nice, especially because we also do see Roos right here, but especially because if we give time for our priests to preach a little bit, which was what we were doing with this guy, but if we preach here a little bit, if we get to spread our dominion to Lithia, then we can go straight from Olifa to Lithia in terms of traveling, because the ice bridge will be formed. And then we're 2 squares from Aramor. Otherwise, we're 3 squares from Aramor, right? And so we could also just lie and wait right here until we manage to achieve that, just so that we have a very quick turnaround where one turn we're here, and then the next turn we tell them we declare war on you and we move there, and then the following turn we're on Aramor. And the Mouflins add a lot of siege strength. If we take a look here and select this, can we select the unit? We have 157 siege strength here out of that army, and then this one we have another 100 siege strength, but we will have so many more Mouflins as well, and that will really add up quite a lot and will let us siege down Aramor quite quickly. And that's kind of the crown jewel. The 500 income on capitals being a really big deal, and denying, if we do fight him, any sort of mage recruitment. So maybe could play a little bit patient where these guys don't have to get into combat as quickly as possible, but kind of sit in Deep Oegor a little bit, depending on information. We'll also set Bernard to just attack, because we'd kind of like it for him to just die and drop his Axe of Sharpness so that we can pick it up. He doesn't have a very big unit anymore, so let him get in there. Alright, so turn 21, and kind of a little bit of a quiet turn for us, calm before the storm, and that's kind of, I think, mainly been the subject of the episode. We get a couple messages. We get response from Atlantis. I concur, Roos is quite strong, though Airmore is sieging him with a big force. I launched my offensive on Therados officially. Hopefully I can keep his wretched dominion at bay. Bloop. And dearest fuzzy man thing. So, kind of like Therados' or Atlantis' style, and I'm mildly concerned about Therados long term, so there's that. Muspelheim doesn't respond to us. I think we had sent him a message, but also Tianchi doesn't respond to us. And so the big question that's kind of in the air is, okay, from Deep Wagor, where do we go? Do we go to Airmore, knowing the additional information that they're currently sieging something, or do we go and pick a fight with Tianchi? And I think if we knew Tianchi was fighting someone else, this would maybe make sense. But as it stands, as far as we know, Tianchi is not fighting anyone, and we have some outside intel that Lanka and Tianchi are apparently, someone told me that Lanka and Tianchi are apparently partners in a different game. In a duos game, like where they're partners from the premise of the game. So I am anticipating Tianchi won't be fighting them. And so I don't think there's a world where we want to take someone who is at peace and cause them war with ourselves exactly, if it seems like we may be able to have peace with them. But at the same time, don't know how much that's possible. So we will have to maybe be a little bit guarded with the way that we operate out here, but we know that Lanka's up this far, and we see this massive kind of smattering of Atlantean stuff. And so now we know Atlantis has expanded quite a bit, and I don't know if they're curling around G-Ball, but we really don't want them to do that. And so us getting onto this is going to be important. Because this is stifling our expansion, right? We want to get this. We don't really care if he's in blue water or like everything to the right here. But this is kind of has an implication that, okay, he probably swept in through here. So Xibalba's on very few locations. We do see that he is on Forest of Idun, though. And we see Therados is starting to get into the water here, which is not ideal. We could cut Therados over if we went for this, but what we really don't want is for Therados to get into here. So we might have to just take a swing at the province above us, even though I'm anticipating that that will not be that easy for us to take with the current squad that we have. Valspawns, Vineman, and Woodman with blowpipes, and the Draco army. But we kind of need to secure this if we're going to grab it, otherwise Therados is going to get it. Or we tell ourselves Therados is too overextended, and maybe peace needs to end. I don't think that that's an opportune thing at this point in time. Atlantis going in on Therados is going to be good for us, though. And so we have options here, where we could go after Tianchi, Airmore, or Xibalba / Therados. You know, kind of a little bit of less conventional ones. Don't know where those scorpions went. We saw that there were some scorpions here before, and they didn't attack here. And it wouldn't make sense for them to go here, because Xibalba could have headed here anyways, and they weren't here unless they failed to expo into Fukan. Which is rough if that's what's going on. If so, Xibalba's very close to dead, and it might make sense just to send the troops back down to get to Xibalba. So this is kind of the things that are on our mind. We do have some other messages. We have this battle. This battle didn't go too well. We lost 4 Bebrick's guards, which we are anticipating not doing. And the real problem is the pikes didn't really take into account that the pikes combat speed is 2. And the combat speed here is like 8. So the pikes were on the godly slow. And our Bebrickses get up in front, and they take kind of the brunt of the action here. So, not exactly what we wanted. They are doing most of the damage. Some decent damage coming down from the archers, because the barbarians don't have helmets. And Cave Cows get some work done too. We lose 8, take out 28. Get some events for some gems. And then one where we got a little bit of unrest and some tax, so that was good. And the patrolling continues to try and keep Aramore in the dark. So I think some time is going to be needed for a little bit of reflection, because I don't know exactly what the answer is, but we're basically the same distance. And we could try and finish off Xibalba. And this makes some sense too, considering we think of Xibalba as a pretty big enemy. And then, if we can kind of lock down this, we actually don't open up too much additional frontage. We'll have to think about where this goes. Alright, decided to spend most of the troops north. What we have is, going north, we have the entire squad with all the priests, because we want to preach there, and a majority of the units, we specifically are taking the netmen, we are taking the cave cows that we have. I think that those will perform decently against Airmore. We're taking most of the Bebricks, the overwhelming majority of the Bebricks guards, as well as the Beckride infantries, all of them, and all the Myru warriors. What we are sending south is a handful of Bebricks guards, which will replenish 1 turn of recruitment worth from Pyrene once it gets there, and also all the Beckride warriors, just the regular Beckrides with the great clubs, sticks and stones. I don't think that these guys will perform very well against the javelin guys. I think the net guys have a function to play against the cavalry, but these guys aren't very good into there, but I do think that they're actually pretty good into the Zots. And so we're trying to allocate the resources where they'll be most efficient, and also we can kind of determine where our reinforcements start going into. To the extent that we're working on reinforcements from Pelea, I think we're going to recruit net guys, and we're going to, if we decide to go to Airmore, go to war with Airmore, we still have some degree of flexibility, but we're moving towards there. If we decide to go to war with them, we're going to continuously recruit from here. Some netmen, and I think what we'll do is we'll even recruit a turn worth of netmen here and start sending those guys behind to follow. And then from Pyrene, I think that we are inclined to, we started on Gentle, kind of inclined to just max out the recruitment on some of these guys, the Myru warriors, and really have quite a big squad coming with. And so we are spending down, rather than on infrastructure, because we kind of wanted to save up for a fort, we're spending down on kind of a big chunk of military here, which is maybe a mistake, but this can go in either direction. This could either go towards Airmore, or it could go down in the south. I think eventually it'll pay for itself, and okay, we could also continue to recruit Sorgina for more research, but I think we do want to get an additional item being forged to turn. This guy is ready to go, especially with his new hammer here, and so we will forge some armor, and also a helmet, and of course forge a loud car outside. With these two guys, and so we'll have an extra suit ready. We are continuing to patrol, trying to keep him relatively blind here in Airmore, so that, you know, if we do attack, which is looking like we're going to, it's going to be a little bit of a surprise. I think that we have one guy who's patrolling here. Do we not? Let's set this guy to patrol now that we have kind of a smattering of dudes. Instead of summoning allies, he will patrol, and then we will get these guys over. And by playing this a little bit slower, we also increase our ability to maybe push our Dominion into this. I imagine it has pretty high Dominion. We also do see Atlantis over here, which I think is significant. We will continue to move our scouts over as well, and get a better picture of what's going on. Because if Airmore is really stretched, out, this should go pretty good for us. If he has a massive siege like over here, he won't have enough turns to get back to Airmore in time. Well, actually, 1, 2, 3. He is pretty close, actually. And these are roads. I don't know if he can move 2 of these a turn. I think he actually does have fast movement on his units, which is a nice little bit of flexibility. But the main idea here is that we are maintaining some flexibility ourselves, in that we will be sending down, we will be recruiting a new squad, and then we also, like, along the way, can add additional units. And I think that this will be kind of the way we try and play it. Speaking of adding additional units, we'll add some more Sino warriors as well. And so kind of get... Ooh, actually, wait. Let's make some adjustment here. Instead of recruiting a Gentle, let's recruit one of these guys, so that we can do a little bit more recruitment out of here. Sorry, not that. Of a Shaman, which we're going to put on repeat recruitment. And then warriors, we will recruit as many as possible, and do that every single turn. and kind of get some up and coming. We will put the pikemen way in front to like kind of guarantee that they get into combat here. And then, considering we're coming down with another squad, I think we'll just take the softer expand, and it's also nice because it has cavalry, so the pikemen will serve the function of eating the cavalry charge. I think that we also really would like the commander to die, so we'll put the commander right there, with the hopes that he does get in there and die to the cavalry, and we can kind of swoop in and kind of clean things up without too many casualties. Here, I think we'll just research with the guy and preach with the other guy, but as things start to look safe, we might follow through pretty quick here, and build a temple in the lab so we can start recruiting more of these guys, but I do want to get at least another turn of recruitment. Also kind of want to have a little bit of a better idea of what's going on. We do have a scout over here. We could curve this scout back rather than paying maintenance on another scout. I think we want to see forward a little bit to just exactly how big Xibalba is, and because of that, we maybe need to recruit another scout, but we have to recruit it so far back, though. We hope that we can maybe recruit a scout out of this new location that we are going to be picking up next turn. Adjusted some stuff so that we could get a Gentil instead, and a pretty big Myru recruitment. We came down on the recruitment to get the Gentil, and then we deleted the Sino recruitment to be able to get back up on these Myru warriors. I think we do want a Gentil in attacking Airmore, or to be able to have him help out attacking Airmore, so we're going to move one on over. We are moving this Myru champion over for kind of the similar reason. He will be able to get into position relatively quick because he's a giant, so this is going to be nice. And then we are also going to queue up Alteration 4. Don't want to forget to queue this up because we don't want it to roll, our research to roll over. We only need a little bit of additional research for the following turn. And if we forget to do it on the following turn, and we have like 120 research roll over, that's research that's not going to be going into alteration. And it looks like by the time we contact Airmore, we're going to have the ability to have Alteration 4, so we are going to have AoE Stone Skin, which is going to be quite nice. And we will also have AoE on the Mist form, and we can cast Quickness as well, and so our Gentils will be very scary indeed. I don't think we have kind of the setup in terms of mages for casting much quickness. We didn't get any sort of additional water, although we are moving the Old Manvoy out to search stuff, so maybe there's a world where we commit him a little bit harder, but he's the only guy right now that we have that can build the booster for water that requires 3 water pathing, so kind of a little bit nervous about using him, and do want him to search sites so that we can get more water gems, and he can find the 3 water ones where the other ones can't. And so, after episodes 16 through 21, I think the die has been cast here. In that we have prepared for war, we've engaged mostly in diplomacy, we've prepared for war, and now it's just a matter of the logistics of getting there and executing kind of the opening salvo on Airmore. We are hemming and hawing, and we've been hemming and hawing for some time, trying to maintain flexibility where flexibility is inexpensive, but we're paying maintenance on army. You can see our maintenance is 566. If we're going to pay maintenance on army, we should be using it. And so paying maintenance on army and then not using it is a bit of a leak. If we didn't build up the army, we could build up infrastructure instead. And to some degree, we still can. We could even start building up like forts and stuff over here. But considering we have the army behind now, but if we're going to build it and have it, we're going to try and make use of it. And so this episode, we got up to 22 locations. We have a pretty big, here the army size is coming up. If we decided to go flat and buy infrastructure instead and buy additional income, that would pay off in 20 to 25 turns. But also it would allow us to transfigure our gold into, instead of army that we pay army upkeep on, mages, which we pay mage upkeep on. And so the other option would have been to fort Deep Wagor rather than kind of this buildup of forces. But once kind of the initial lines start extending here, we probably pull back a little on the spending on the army and do stuff like fort up Deep Wagor, which is going to allow us to kind of transition to more mage base behind. If our war looks like it's going good. If it's going bad, obviously we have to spend more on on armies. Here's the province count as well, and the income. Income came up quite well. We are getting a decent amount of growth in some of these locations. Some locations, the growth is completely frozen. Unfortunately, caves do have, depending on the terrain here, they do have kind of a limited cap if they have a terrain bonus of minus 0.4, and so this is stalled out on the growth. But some of them, like the cave forest, do not have this population penalty. In fact, they have a terrain penalty bonus, and we are getting a ton of population growth here, 1%, and eventually it'll get overcrowded, and we'll get a minus 0.4% penalty, but we'll still have growth and still have eco coming on up. And a lot of these locations, like this, was in the low or the high 130s, I think, initially. The eco on it's coming up. The eco on this is coming up. Deep Wagor is now over 200. Everything's slowly inching up from our growth scales. So if we also sat relatively tight with our 22 locations, that's 1.25 players worth of locations at this juncture. And that's with us having some soft expansion here and kind of a non-aggression with the two biggest people, I think, which now we're concerned might be Atlantis. I think that Atlantis might even own like multiple of these locations to bridge into Therados. And so Atlantis might be giga huge. I don't really know. There's quite a bit of fog here and here, which informs just how big Atlantis is. And Atlantis might even be bigger than Therados. This is kind of something we are considering. We're considering feeding information to Atlantis or Therados. And I think I'm just not going to feed either one more information at this juncture until I know a little bit better what's going on. But I think that Xibalba, we will get more information here when we get to Spires. But if Xibalba's super like cucked and only has like 5 or 6 locations or something like this, we could probably fight Xibalba and Airmore at the same time, considering Airmore is having to fight Roos. And unless Atlantis is misleading us with their message, which, to be fair, they could be, but they seem chill enough. They seem to think Roos is relatively strong. We've seen Roos kind of extend quite a bit of income in terms of territory, so we'll see if Roos is able to deal with it. Also, currently, Airmore only has 2 turns on a couple of mercs. So I think that this big force is maybe a little bit of a paper tiger, and maybe he's seeing the mercs. We did renew the contract on our archers, but we're expecting to kill off the brave men today, brave as they are, or next turn. So not going to renew the contract, not for this price, and then look to go after the wet ones probably next turn, because next turn will be here in Pelea, and the turn sequencing makes sense where we would be attacking into Airmore on one turn with everything. I think that it's maybe the case that we should move a Sorgina over. Let's actually move a Sorgina over just because it'll be a little bit more flexible. I don't think we can move her down immediately. Maybe if we had better boots we could, but with this, we maybe have some spots where we have Sorginas from Abbey fly over, and he has some stuff that just says completely free of military units. If something's completely free of military units, the Sorginas can make short work of it, because they can cast a bunch of spells, this type of thing. And so if we can flip like 5 or 6 locations in one turn, on the first turn that we engage in the violence, this would be really, really strong. And also, if we can, take the Mountains of Evernight and all this behind, and then just park a force right here, then he's going to have to engage us because, or we would have to get this cold. There's heat scales he does have access through the mountains. There's not a big a choke as we would like here. Although, if we could spread our dominion, we have also an ungodly amount of priests coming through, and he might not be ready for this quantity of priests, and maybe we can even just park a bunch of priests on him and dom kill him. I'm not really sure if that's potentially an option, but if he doesn't have a very well spread, well, no, they have really good priests in Airmore. Dom killing him is probably not going to be a thing, but yeah, that's kind of how the episode has swung. Gonna try and make the episodes or the kind of turns a little bit shorter and focus less on logistics and this type of thing. I was trying to highlight how there is quite a bit of play in this regard, but I think that moving forward, there's going to be more interesting things to focus on than how we're shuffling units in such a way that we are minimizing time spent like in a fort for units where they're just not doing anything and not being useful, this type of thing. And we might focus on shuffling around mages, because that's something that is going to change up a little bit, but we'll see what happens next episode. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, feel free to like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell, do the etc. things, and have a good one.